The Thanksgiving turkey is mostly put away. It's time to break out the ugly sweaters and watch some football.
You know, the big house is going to feel awfully tiny without a lot of fans, but it's still Michigan and Penn State, something to get excited about.
And Todd, they're two teams just really desperate for a win. The Blue-White Tailgate presented by Blaze Alexander is next. Thanksgiving weekend, and thankful to be with my good friends. Todd Sadowski here, and then over in Bellefonte is Jay Paterno, as we're socially distanced. It's great to have you with us, along with Kenny a little bit later, John Stroh, our whole crew. Thankful for each and every one of them. But guys, I'm going to start with Jay on this one. Jay, I mean, it's another week where they've got to quote bounce back.
Yeah, and you know, it's been a repeating occurrence. It's, you know, play fairly well, get behind early, make some turnovers, and really they've been in a giving mood all year. Let's hope that ends this holiday season.
I mean, Todd, that's the problem. On the pyramid of problems, it starts with turnovers. It changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, this is not the kind of history we thought this team would be making to start out 0-5. A lot of people were talking about this was the year that maybe they would make a run at the college football playoffs for the first time. But, you know, we've talked about this off camera. There's nothing that's, you know, that's normal about 2020. Everything and the way that Coach Franklin wants to run the program, run the team, none of it is happening the way that we thought it would happen because of the pandemic. And so you just show up and you play each week and you try to do your best.
And James Franklin's not making excuses about this.
It's not good enough. There's obviously a lot of circumstances going on this year, but none of that matters at the end of the day. You know, we got to find a way to play good football, and we have not done that.
Have not to this point, and that's been the issue. I mean, it's not been, I mean, they've had moments, but nothing consistent.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of the games. As Jay mentioned, you get behind early in the games, and it starts to change the way that you have to approach what's going on. And I don't know if I've ever seen the team give up so many defensive touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, we're not just turning the ball over. They're scooping it and scoring. They're pick sixing it. And I mean, you just can't do that.
All right, so let's get the update. Kenny Schierlinger with a look at the Lions in college football.
Penn State is now 0-5 for the first time in program history as they fell to Iowa last weekend. They now move on to Michigan. They head to the Big House, a noon kickoff on ABC as the Penn State Nittany Lions are looking for their first win of the season. Taking a look into Lions in the league, Chris Godwin had himself a nice Monday night as he led the Bucs comeback in a late fourth quarter with an acrobatic 13-yard reception. Unfortunately for Godwin and the Buccaneers, it was not enough in the end as they fell to the Rams. And former Nittany Lion and current Detroit Lion quarterback Amani Oruwariye earned his first career NFL interception against the Panthers on Sunday. Amani also tallied 5 tackles and only surrendered 1 completion for 3 yards in Detroit's loss to Carolina. And guys, maybe Amani's interception for the Detroit Lions can inspire some of the Nittany Lions to get their own interception against the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday.
Good job on Amani Oruwariye.
I think he practiced it a few times. Yeah.
And the reason the Bucs lost was not because of Penn State's Chris Godwin. It may have been because of Michigan's Tom Brady. All right, so let's get to our Drive of the Week. And our Drive of the Week is brought to you by our great friends at the Sign Stop. By the way, personalized cornhole. Down 3-0. Penn State gets the ball at the 25, and now Will Levis, Jay, goes to work running and throwing.
Yeah, he did a nice job mixing in the short passes with him running. But, you know, as you look at this game, it was good to see us get the lead, get out in front. But you don't want to see your quarterback carrying the ball as much as he did in his drive.
Back-to-back weeks for Kevon Lee with a touchdown run, including that one to cap the drive, giving Penn State its first lead since Indiana.
Can you believe that? I mean, a real strong finish on the run, but who would have thought it would be a month since they would have the lead, and they weren't able to hold it.
Steadiest player on offense so far this year is our Offensive Player of the Week, and that would be Jahan Dotson as our Offensive Player of the Week. 139 yards receiving, third 100-plus receiving game this season, second highest of his career, behind the 144 he had against Ohio State, including, Todd, this 68-yard strike.
Well, what you like to see is him succeeding in different ways and different patterns, and those explosive splash plays, you love seeing that, but getting the outs and then going deep. He's really separating himself, and he is the number one guy, no doubt.
And Jay, separation's the key. He's getting separation on plays.
Yeah, no question about it, and that's going to be key as they get into this week with Michigan.
And then you go into the defensive player of the week, and you go to a senior. He came in as a 197-pound defensive end outside linebacker. He's made himself into a heck of a defensive end. Shaka Toney, big-time game for him, guys.
Yeah, I thought he had his best game of the year in many ways, and that kind of effort and his intensity, I thought, was really at a different level last Saturday.
Well, you can't let the quarterback get comfortable, and he did not let Spencer Petras get comfortable. He's fast off the edge, and they need to continue that to push, young Michigan quarterback this week.
And that's a really good point, because that's you see with Cade McNamara, that's something that they've had trouble with, handling pressure up front.
Yeah, so it's going to be key for them, and it's not just Shaka Toney, it's the other guys, and they're capable, fully capable of putting pressure on the quarterback.
So on the pyramid of problems, there's no doubt that at the top of the pyramid for Penn State has been giveaway, takeaway. And Kenny Schierlinger, coming up in the next segment, is going to take a look at Penn State's turnover ratio and the problem there as we continue on Blue White Tailgate presented by Blaze Alexander after this. Welcome back to Blue White Tailgate on this Thanksgiving weekend as Penn State gets ready to take on Michigan. As I mentioned at the end of the last segment, on the pyramid of problems, number one is the turnovers. There's just no getting around it. And Kenny Schierlinger takes a look at what is a nasty plus-minus ratio for Penn State.
Well, Steve, I think you know, and I think everybody around the Penn State football community knows that Penn State has a lot of questions to be answered. And one of those big questions is turnovers, as James Franklin talked about it at length in his post-game interview after Iowa on Saturday.
The story of the game is can't turn the ball over, and that's been the story of the season, turnovers.
Penn State yet again was snake-bitten by turnovers against the Hawkeyes, giving away the football 4 times and only managing to gain 1 turnover for themselves. And the turnover problem seems to flow from the quarterback position, as both quarterbacks, Will Levis and Sean Clifford, split the turnover count against the Hawkeyes.
We're going to need them both. We're going to need them both, and I think the reality is turnovers have been our issue, one of our issues, but probably one of our bigger issues. And the reality is we've had it with both of them.
Coach Franklin has talked about at length over the last few days how together they've gotten themselves into 0-5, and together they're going to get themselves out of this situation. And that sounds like how they're going to handle the quarterback position moving forward to try to solve the turnover problem. Steve?
All right, Kenny, so now let's take a look graphically about the turnover numbers, the NCAA turnover margin. You can see it right there, but it's bigger than that. In Iowa, those turnovers led to 24 points, right? 51 points in the season. Sorry, Todd.
No, that's okay. It's not just that they're turning the ball over, it's where they're turning the ball over.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana had a 4-yard drive in their first game.
Yeah.
I mean, they give Iowa the ball at the 23. The defense has to roll back out there and hold them to a field goal. It's not just they're turning it over. It's what's happening after they give the ball back to the other team.
So let's take a look at the quarterback turnovers because, Jay, I mean, this is something that has to change for Penn State.
No question, and it really goes to the entire offense in some ways because some of those fumbles have been created by pressure, and the number of sacks at Penn State's given up, and the other team's ability to pressure them has forced some of those. But they got to take care of the ball first and foremost.
All right, so now let's get to tail of the tape. The Michigan defense and the Penn State offense, they have not been happy defensively at Michigan with how they've played to this point this season. And on our tail of the tape, you'll see some of the numbers right here that shows why Michigan is not happy with how they played defensively.
Well, the Nittany Lions fan base aren't the only ones that are shocked at what's going on in the 2020 football season. Michigan, until this last week, and I mean, they went to triple overtime with Rutgers, but it's just not typical stuff of what's happening, both offensively and defensively. But, look, they haven't been in some of the games. They didn't have some close games either, and it's not. I mean, that's just not like what's happening with Michigan in the Big Ten.
And, of course, our tail of the tape brought to you by our great friends at CP Vets. Yeah, no, they've had problems. And then there's the other side of it, too. Jahan Dotson says that right now, when Penn State gets opportunities, they need to make the most of it.
We haven't been capitalizing on the plays that we know we could make. And that's not going to get you wins. You have to capitalize every time you get the chance to. because you're only out on the field for so long. You only get so many opportunities, so you have to make the most of all of them.
And on our CP Vets tail of the tape, something I know is that 274 yards per game given up by the Michigan defense. Now, let's do the other side now. On tail of the tape presented by CP Vets. Penn State's defense against the Michigan offense. You see a lot of similarities there, although you'll notice the Penn State numbers defensively are absolutely down from where the Michigan numbers are defensively.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the points, 36 a game is just shocking to see that number. And no matter how they're doing it, look, offensively, Penn State's moving the ball, but they're not scoring all the points that they should be. They're getting held up, whether it be with field goals or whatever, and they're allowing just too many touchdowns. They have got to get tougher about keeping people out of the end zone.
You know, Ronnie Bell's a really good receiver. Cornelius Johnson's playing well. But, Jay, what was your thought on watching Cade McNamara step in relief against Rutgers and throwing 4 touchdown passes?
Well, we're going to see this in the film, and I think one of the things that happened when he got in the game is you look at the tempo of the game when a guy comes in, and Michigan's offense seemed to operate at a much faster pace. The ball was out. The ball was in places where they could make plays. So I think he makes a big difference, but hopefully Penn State's defense can disrupt him this week.
And that would mean Antonio Shelton and company. And Antonio Shelton is blunt. Look, they need to get themselves off the field defensively.
Stop the run on first and second down, get them the third long, pass rush, get the quarterback on the ground, get off the field. That's it. It's very simple. We just have to do our job within the framework of the defense, make our plays, and get the ball back to the offense.
Yeah, right now, and this is something, a number that I keep, guys, the stop rate for the defense in the first half, in other words, the drive ends with no points, is under 50% in the first half. Now, in the second half, it's exponentially better, but you need stops in this. That's the name of the game in today's college football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm chuckling at Antonio, just kind of sitting back. I mean, we're laughing, you're talking about the stop rate, and I mean, that's something we don't see, right? 2020 is so different, but everything that we're seeing, even the Zoom interviews, all this stuff, and it's crazy what's going on. And, you know, I know they can't get a handle on what's happening in the first half.
Right.
And they don't have many games yet left to figure it out,
No.
Steve. They've got to try and get that done to stay in this ball game, because they can compete with everybody they're playing with, but they're just not playing clean football, and it's starting right away, immediately after the kickoff.
My problem is that I think Jay's going to start leaning back like that in the film room. And speaking of the film room, that's next as we continue with Blue White Tailgate after this.
Welcome back to the film room. This is the time of the show where we all get a lot smarter, because Jay is going to break down the opponent. And this time it's Michigan, under 500, 2-3 for the season, Jay. This defense isn't what they thought it would be, is it?
No, and we're going to talk about that and get a little in depth into it. One of the things about Michigan's defense is it relies on pass rush and man-to-man coverage. So let's take a look at our first shot here. They love to get the pass rush. They've had a hard time getting the pass rush, so their man-to-man coverage has been a problem for them. They've gotten beat because they've had to cover for a while, but one of the problems they have, and could be an advantage for Penn State, is who has the quarterback. Take a look at what happened to Rutgers last week. This is a key 3rd down and 15 early in the game. Quarterback gives a nice little pump fake. Everybody's running with men downfield. Next thing you know, he's loose for 15 yards, and that's something Penn State ought to look to exploit. Because they've had trouble with the pass rush, they've gone to some more zones. But some of their zones still leave the corners one-on-one outside, and without the pass rush, they're able to run some double moves. Here against Michigan State, you'll see with these 2 safeties high, this corner's still one-on-one. So take a look at the video on this one. Here the quarterback has time, little pump fake on the corner up top, and he throws it behind him. And again, Michigan is giving up big plays in the pass game, which they have not done in the past. Now, the other thing you got to do is when they, to make up for their lack of pass rush from their down 4 guys, they've done a lot more blitz against people to try and get that pass rush. One thing that's been a problem for Penn State is movement up front, twists and blitzes. But if your quarterback can find the soft coverage and get it out in a hurry, he'll have a chance to make some plays on Saturday. So let's take a look at this one against Michigan. Again, here comes the guy off the edge. They get a little twist up front. But again, on a 3rd down, Rutgers quarterback gets the ball out and gets the first down and moves the chains.
You know, when you have teams playing this way, you just see a lot of losing football plays. And that's what you saw from Michigan for the first part of their season. They got a new quarterback, and hopefully it's not just in time for the Wolverines.
Well, hopefully it's not just in time. It's exactly right, because he came in, McNamara came in, and one of the things you look for, and we mentioned this earlier, is what happens to the offense when the new quarterback comes in. And one of the things he does early in the game, his first drive, Rutgers runs a corner blitz. He's a young guy, but he still finds the matchup he wants in a hurry, and the ball gets out. And take a look at this in the video. Again, the corner's going to come off. McNamara stands in the pocket, good presence, finds the safety cover and is wide out and gets behind him and gets a touchdown. And that the whole process of their offense sped up after he got into the game, and that's a problem. The other thing you got to take care of Michigan when you play them is they want to run the football. They've been inconsistent, but and the key when you start to watch the game is, are they able to push the offensive line up the field against Penn's defensive line and make some cutbacks? Here you're going to see a real good push on the front side, a seal off on the backside. The tailback's going to start front side to get those linebackers, and he makes the cutback on that play. The other thing you want to look for also is if Penn State gets into some man-to-man, into some key red zone situations, look for traffic and matchup problems with the secondary. Penn State has had trouble with pick plays underneath. Here you're going to see McNamara. When we go to the video, you're going to see this outside guy come out. The inside receiver just stands there, doesn't really illegally pick it, but it's pretty close to being illegal. But those are the things you got to look for on Saturdays. How is Michigan's offensive line coming off the ball? How is Penn State's defensive line handling that, and can they get to the quarterback? And on the flip side, can Michigan get to Penn State's quarterback without having to blitz? Because if they can, it's going to be a long day for Penn State.
Jay, you mentioned the red zone. I want to ask you real quick about tackling near the red zone. What have you seen from Penn State as far as the tackling goes? I know Jesse Luketa missed one last week, and it's become so imperative because they're letting their opponents in the end zone way too many times.
Yeah, the red zone is going to be key, because if you look at Penn State's red zone production on offense, they're getting touchdowns only 45% of the time. On the flip side, they're giving up a lot of touchdowns. And again, when you're in the red zone, your safeties are tighter to the ball. You're going to have faster help. So you've got to know where your leverage is. So even in a play like Luketa, if he gets outside and forces it back inside, there's a safety sitting there waiting for him. And if he bounces it outside because he knows his help is outside, but they've got to know where everybody else is. And I think a couple times you saw some breakdowns in the red zone where they didn't play their gaps. They didn't force the running back to their help.
Combined records of 2-8. It's Michigan-Penn State like you've never seen before. And coming up on the show, you're going to hear about a sandwich I've never heard about before in the Steve Jones household as we talk about some Thanksgiving leftovers. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, this is Thanksgiving weekend. We've already gone through the big meal. Now we get to leftovers. So let's find out from Jahan Dotson and Antonio Shelton, what's your favorite post-Thanksgiving leftover?
I have to go with my dad's mac and cheese. I'm more of a ham guy instead of turkey. The turkey's just a little dry.
I think the mac and cheese yams combo is just undefeated.
All right, so undefeated, is it? All right, so Jay, what's undefeated on the leftover list in your house?
A pizza on Friday. That's what it is. I'm Italian. It's hard enough to not eat Italian food on Thanksgiving. I go right to the pizza.
So Tom, what do you got?
I'm a traditionalist, man. Mashed taters, just give me some leftover mashed potatoes, some good corn on the cob, scraped off corn, throw it on top, throw the gravy on, a little salt and pepper, and warm it up. Good stuff.
Turkey sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey, right? Some stuffing, a little cranberry sauce, and a little mayo. All right, sit back, watch a little football before I get on a plane, and then, go from there. That's my fare. That's what I enjoy. I love that. Which now brings us to, maybe you think the sandwich is ugly, but they're good.
Yes.
The bad and the ugly. All right, so let's get going with the good.
My good is Northwestern. They're undefeated. Pat Fitzgerald's just a great coach, great guy, and couldn't be happier for him. And, I think one of the things that's come out of this is this year you're seeing some great coaching jobs, and I think Northwestern's one of them.
Well, I'll tell you, they play defense, too. They do a great job. All right, so my bad, Dabo Swinney. I understand your initial complaint. Stop complaining about the Florida State game. It's over. Move on to the next one. You probably should have kept the player back and then brought him on a bus the next day.
Toughest opponent out there is COVID-19. Wisconsin found that out in the ugly. Minnesota and Wisconsin, they were hoping they could get all their games in. That's game number 3. Not sure they're going to be able to compete in the Big Ten championship, even if they were qualified with the record.
All right, so on this Thanksgiving weekend, let's take a look at the standings because we're not thankful for this again. It's Kenny. All right, so let's let's get to it. I get Kent State, Buffalo. Dustin Crum, quarterback, Kent State. That's why Kent State wins. Kenny, what do you have?
Well, guys, one of the most entertaining games of the week was IU and Ohio State last weekend in the Horseshoe as the Hoosiers battled and battled and battled some more, just falling short to the Buckeyes. I don't think they're going to have that problem this weekend against Maryland, as I'm taking IU over the Terps. Guys?
All right, thanks, Kenny. I'm going to go with Colorado at USC, and I'm going to go with the Trojans in that one. Jay, you got the Iron Bowl.
I got the Iron Bowl, and I don't even think this one is close. I think Alabama rolls big.
All right, so now let's get to our keys of the game presented by our good friends at Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And Todd, you get to go first on this one.
Defensive pressure. You got to get to this quarterback, whoever it is. If it's McNamara, you have got to make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and you got to get to him.
I'm going to go with field position. I think the team with the shorter field, which of course is probably turnovers, that's going to be the key.
I'm going to go with passion. A number of people have commented to me about watching this team, and at times it doesn't look like they're playing with a lot of passion, a lot of zest, joy. I want to see that on Saturday from the first play to the last. I want to see them just flying around like a bunch of mad dogs and get this win.
Thanksgiving weekend. Thankful for each of you that watch us each and every week. Appreciate you so much. Our great sponsors, can't be thankful enough for them. But working with people like Jay and Todd, Kenny, John Stroh, the entire crew, so thankful. Thanks for joining us on the show.